Welcome back to the 17 News at Sunrise podcast, where we share your news on your schedule.
Working in the spirit of the Golden Empire, this is 17 News at Sunrise.
Good morning. Right now at 5, it is Inauguration Day in America. President Trump will leave the White House this morning as President-elect Joe Biden is sworn in. A look at the day's events and the security surrounding the Capitol this morning. The Delano City Council approves a fine for people who disregard the stay-at-home order. We'll tell you how it's expected to work and how much it could cost. And the mass vaccination site at the Kern County Fairgrounds opens this morning with the eventual goal of vaccinating 5,000 people every day. A look inside the facility and how it will work on this Wednesday, January 20th, 2021. Good morning, Kern County, and thanks so much for starting your day with us on this Wednesday morning. It is January 20th. Of course, it is a busy day for America as all eyes are on Washington, D.C., as in just a few hours, President-elect Joe Biden will take the oath of office. We have a lot to get to this morning, but we had a kind of a busy day in the weather department yesterday. Maddie?
Yeah, we certainly did, and it continued overnight. The winds were so loud yet again last night up in the mountains. I know we have a lot of people who are without power right now due to those public safety power shutoffs because of the fire danger. So let's check in with Kevin and see what we're dealing with this Wednesday.
Well, the winds are slowly starting to calm down, Maddie. We will still see a breeze up into the Kern County mountains, but in terms of the valley, the majority of the winds have started to calm down, and that's a good thing. As we take a look at the satellite and radar right now, not much should show you. A few clouds out in the eastern part of the desert, and that's because of that area of low pressure that's still spinning to the east of us, but that's all we're expected to see throughout today. We have the wind advisory to the south, and we also have the air quality alert into the valley locations. And as we take a look here at the current winds, you can see they are spotty, big change from what we were seeing yesterday when we had all that blowing dust. Now, in terms of wind speeds, the Grapevine clocked a speed of 65 miles per hour, Jawbone Canyon at 55, Walker Pass at 43, and Bakersfield had a wind gust of 29 miles per hour, pushing 30, so it was definitely breezy. 45 degrees out there right now, and east-southeast wind at 3, so much lighter than what we were seeing yesterday. Today, we should see sunny skies, temperatures expected into the 60s and then up into the mountains. The winds will still be blowing throughout the day, not as strong. Right now, fairly light out of the east-southeast at 4, and we're at 45 degrees under mostly clear skies. Partly cloudy at 7 a.m., 46, and you can see those 50s will return as we head into the afternoon. I'll have much more on your forecast coming your way in just a little bit. Now we'll send it back over to you.
All right, thanks so much, Kev. And taking a live look at the Capitol this morning, we are just hours away from regime change in America. At midday, shortly after President Trump leaves Washington, which he's preparing to do right now, Joe Biden will take the oath of office as the next commander-in-chief. Tracy Potts has the story from the Capitol, where today's inauguration signals a new era for the nation.
In just a few hours, under the tightest security this nation has ever seen, Joe Biden will be sworn in as the 46th president of the United States.
And I'm honored. I'm truly honored to be your next president and commander-in-chief.
Last night, the Bidens, with Vice President-elect Kamala Harris and her husband, gazed nostalgically across the National Mall, lit up to honor more than 400,000 people who lost their battle with COVID-19.
For many months, we have grieved by ourselves. Tonight, we grieve and begin healing together.
It's important to do that as a nation.
Aides say Biden's inaugural speech will focus on unity. President Trump is expected to make remarks at a red carpet military send-off this morning. In a videotaped farewell message, he sends good wishes to the new administration and takes a final victory lap.
I stand before you truly proud of what we have achieved together.
Overnight, the president pardoned and commuted sentences for nearly 150 people, including rappers, Democrats, and former chief strategist Steve Bannon, but not himself, his family, or his attorney, Rudy Giuliani.
Donald Trump was a stain on our country. So in any event, he's gone.
Having lost support from a key Republican ally over this month's Capitol attack.
The mob was fed lies. They were provoked by the president and other powerful people.
Biden is pledging to get to work this afternoon. Biden's day one agenda includes signing 15 executive orders and sending a bill to Congress to create an 8-year path to citizenship for undocumented immigrants. Tracy Potts, NBC News at the U.S. Capitol.
And despite Trump's decision not to attend Joe Biden's inauguration, other notable Republicans have stated that they will be in attendance today. Bakersfield Congressman Kevin McCarthy and Republican David Valadao stated they will be in attendance at the inauguration. This comes after McCarthy sparred with President Trump over his response to the Capitol riot, claiming the president bears some responsibility for his actions. Valadao, notably, was one of just 10 Republican House members to vote for President Trump's impeachment. And President Trump gave his farewell address to the nation in a video release from the White House yesterday. In his remarks, the president talked about his administration's accomplishments during his tenure and also gave his best wishes to the incoming Biden administration, although he never mentioned him by name.
4 years ago, I came to Washington as the only true outsider ever to win the presidency. I had not spent my career as a politician, but as a builder looking at open skylines and imagining infinite possibilities. I ran for president because I knew there were towering new summits for America just waiting to be scaled. I knew the potential for our nation was boundless as long as we put America first. This week, we inaugurate a new administration and pray for its success in keeping America safe and prosperous. We extend our best wishes, and we also want them to have luck, a very important word.
President Trump also addressed the riots at the U.S. Capitol and said that political violence can never be tolerated. Lastly, he said he hopes his legacy shows that the government belongs to the American people and that every American voice is important.
This, I hope, will be our greatest legacy. Together, we put the American people back in charge of our country. We restored self-government. We restored the idea that in America, no one is forgotten because everyone matters and everyone has a voice. I go from this majestic place with a loyal and joyful heart, an optimistic spirit, and a supreme confidence that for our country and for our children, the best is yet to come. Thank you and farewell. God bless you. God bless the United States of America.
And here at home, local law enforcement is preparing for every possible scenario as threats of violence continue to be an ongoing worry across the country. The Bakersfield Police Department released a statement yesterday stating they have no local information indicating planned protest activity at this time. The statement continues saying, quote, as has been our stance throughout the last year's protests and moving forward into 2021, we will do everything we can to facilitate and protect First Amendment activity. However, criminal law violations will not be tolerated. And the Kern County Sheriff's Office also released a statement. It reads, the Kern County Sheriff's Office is aware of the current dynamics across the country and is monitoring the ongoing situation locally. As always, KCSO will respond appropriately as needed.
Time now is 5:08, and an undercover drug sting led to a sheriff's deputy opening fire yesterday and a cross-city chase in Bakersfield. It is the first shooting involving a law enforcement officer this year, but no one was hurt, and 3 men are now in custody. It all started just before 11 a.m. on Merle Haggard Drive near the Harley-Davidson dealership. A KCSO deputy was part of an undercover drug sting with an agent from the Drug Enforcement Administration. But during the sting, 3 suspects tried to kidnap the DEA agent. KCSO says that's when guns were drawn.
While a deputy was in the process of stopping that kidnapping, the suspects did display a firearm, and that's when the officer-involved shooting occurred.
No one was hit, and KCSO says the suspects tried to get away. They got in a car and were chased all the way to the Village Lane Apartments near Stockdale Highway. BPD, KCSO, CHP all converged to this area, Village Lane and Marcia Street. That's where they took all 3 suspects into custody. Their names have not been released, and it's unclear how many charges they're going to face. While the case did involve the DEA, KCSO says it is handling this investigation.
Welcome back here at 5:13, and you're looking live in Washington right now as President Donald Trump and First Lady Melania Trump leave the White House for the last time as president. He is preparing to board Marine One. He will then take a short flight to Joint Base Andrews in Maryland. There he will participate in a military-style send-off before heading on to his resort in Florida. The president, again, not attending today's inauguration of Joe Biden, the first president in 150 years not to attend his successor's inauguration. Instead, he will be arriving in Florida around the time Joe Biden is sworn into office. Your time now is 5:24. We're still watching the live picture right now as Marine One heads to Joint Base Andrews this morning for the farewell ceremony that will be held there for President Trump before the inauguration later this morning of President-elect Joe Biden. And Aton Wallace is following the day's events for us, and he has a look at what's ahead and a look back as well.
You know what, Maddie, indeed, a look back. 1,827 days. That's how long Donald J. Trump has served as 45th President of the United States, and today is his final day in that title. You know, over the last 4 years, I want to show you here, this is his election night speech, November 9, 2016. During his remarks, he promised to unite the country and called on Americans to come together. History will decide whether that was the case. Now let's take a look at the numbers. Unemployment rate when he took office, January 2017, 4.7%. Today, 6.7%. Dow Jones at the time, 19,827. Today, 30,930. Federal budget deficit, the annual deficit at the time, $584 billion per year. Today, $3.3 trillion. U.S. troops in Afghanistan when he took office, 12,000. Today, 2,500. And then Republicans in the House, of course, House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy, big influence here, 241 then, today 211. And then, of course, we check all members who are elected, Democrat, Republican, to hold them to account. In 1,458 days, Washington Post estimates 30,534 false or misleading claims from this president. Now, that's not all, of course. I should mention, Maddie, a lot that happened over these last 4 years. So much to go through, of course, but just some things to touch on during the president's tenure in office. He appointed more than 300 federal judges, including 3 Supreme Court judges, Neil Gorsuch, Brett Kavanaugh, Amy Coney Barrett. Foreign policy, he and his son-in-law Jared Kushner and the Trump administration brokered a deal of the Abraham Accords, normalizing relations between Israel and several Arab countries, including the UAE, United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, Sudan, and later with Morocco. And just as last weekend, I was with the Vice President, Mike Pence, at Naval Air Station Lemoore, the Vice President touting what he considered many foreign policy accomplishments from the Trump administration, including the pulling out of the Iran nuclear deal. He said that ISIS no longer has any territory in Syria, in Iraq, and he was further, he called on the incoming Biden administration to, quote, stay the course and stand up to China. Mm-hmm. So a lot over the last 4 years, but that's just a few of the numbers right there and a little bit of a recap, but a historic day for sure.
Absolutely, and we heard the president tout a lot of his perceived accomplishments last night in that farewell address, by the way. You can watch that entire address on our website, kget.com.
Working in the spirit of the Golden Empire, this is 17 News at Sunrise.
The 17 News at Sunrise podcast is a production of KGET and Nexstar Media Group. For more on all of the headlines in today's show, head to kget.com.